What's up? You know what time it is. You know I got you know who with me as usual. But you know, last couple miles of the long one. And I want to tell y'all a little story today. And today's theme is about overcoming paralyzing fear. So this story begins right before my first triathlon, which so happened to be the 70.3. And as you may know already, I've never swam that distance before. I've never done anything like that before. But I figured I already had a couple of half marathons under my belt. So I was like, how hard could it be, right? Well, in the middle of my swim block, a group of friends wanted to go out and meet up with another team on the North Shore in New Orleans at this place called the Tri-Hole, right off in the lakefront in Metairie, I think. But I've only been out there a couple times at this point. It was more or less just treading the water a little bit and ride my bike around the bike course, you know, with the usual suspects. So I really wasn't thinking too much of it. Well, that morning on the drive out there, it was an exceptionally windy day, you know, and when we got out to the Tri-Hole, like there's these series of pylons that run parallel to the shore. I don't know what the distance between them is. I don't know what the total distance around them is. All that I know is the first time I tried to swim around those things, I barely had the strength to make it around the second one. I think there was like 6 or 7 at the time. But we went out there, hanging out with Tiff, as usual, when it came to getting out for the swim. You know, we were putting our wetsuits on and everything, and she was telling me about the swim course and how I'm really gonna need to practice my bilateral breathing because of the chop. Well, at the top of those steps, looking down at the water, the chop didn't look so bad. But when I got in the water, man, the swells, each and every swell was going right over my head, man. And I was immediately terrified, you know. Like, I could barely tread water without the water going in my mouth and in my eyes and up and over my head and everything. So I was already pretty much at my limit of anxiety, at least what I thought at the time. But it was time to get started, and Tiff jumped in and started doing her thing, and I figured, well, if I stay about 10-15 yards behind her, I'd be all right, you know. So she got going, and I pushed off behind her, and I was keeping my sight up so I can keep my eyes on her and also keep my eyes on the pylons, which are to my right. And I think the wind picked up or something, but when I went to go breathe, I just got like a face full of water, man. And a face full of water, mouth full of water, right when I was trying to breathe in. But I didn't really panic that time, but I was really thinking to myself, oh shit, I'm in over my head on this one. So I slowed down a little bit and I tried to breathe to the other side. Face full of water, mouth full of water. Now at that point, I was starting to panic a little bit, because now here it is, I'm about 5 to 8 strokes and I haven't had a breath yet. And so when I finally did get to breathe, I'm not using any form or technique at all. I'm pretty much flailing in the water at this point. And then, you know, I got my breath and I was just about to get started again, and boom, 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 just right back after back, I was getting hit with waves. And right then, I felt myself hit something. I looked to my right, it's one of those pylons, and I wasn't even thinking, it was just pure instinct, man. I just grabbed one of those pylons. And I'm not making this up. Arms and legs, I wrapped them both around this pylon. But there was barnacles cutting into my legs, cutting into my arms. I didn't care. I was clamped on that thing and I wasn't letting go. I don't know how long I was wrapped around that thing, but hyperventilating, no voluntary control over my muscles or anything. I was just frozen in fear. And I hear this voice screaming at me, Damien, Damien, hey. And I look over and it was Tiff, just sitting there treading water, and she's screaming at me. She couldn't have been no more foot away from me. But she's like, hey, you're gonna be okay. You can do this. Come on, you can do this. You can do this. But I didn't believe her, man. I knew most of it was just, you know, that kind of motivational pep talk thing. I didn't know how much of it was the truth. But she said something that was utterly profound to me at the time. It's like, and now I think about it now, it's like, well, duh, right? But then in that moment, it was profound. And she said, you can't hang on to this thing forever. You're gonna have to let go and swim to the shore at some point. She said, don't worry, when you're ready to let go and you're ready to swim to shore, I'm gonna be right here. I'm not going anywhere. Thinking about that almost brings me to tears, because, you know, Tiff, man, I love you, Tiff. Oh, anyway, she talked me off the ledge and I started swimming again. And I don't know how she did it, but she swam right by my side, stroke for stroke the whole time. And she pushed me on my shoulder around the next pylon, kind of guiding me in towards shore. And I knew I was cutting the swim short, but that was it, man. I was finished. I was cooked. That was all I could do. But when we finally got back to the shore, we got out of the water and she gave me a hug and she told me how proud of me she was. Because, you know, most folks with that level of inexperience would have just skipped out of that swim altogether. And my mentor and training partner at the time, he even said that was one of the toughest swims he's ever done. So, you know, even though I couldn't do it by myself, it still took me in my own mind to say, you know what, Tiff is on to something. She's way more experienced and way stronger than I am. Maybe she knows something that I don't. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I am gonna be okay. Turns out she was right. And turns out now I'm not scared to swim in any water. Open ocean, river, nothing. Not even worried about it. Especially with the wetsuit on. That's a done deal, Jack. But anyway, that's the end of this story today. And just remember that you can do it, you know. Even when all logic and everything around you says otherwise. You can do it until you show yourself you can't. You know what I'm saying? And you're never gonna know until you try. At least that's what a wise man told me. But that's it for me. Today's long run's over. You know, I'm really hungry today, so I'm going straight home and eating everything that's not bolted down. But like I said before, thank you for pressing play and hanging out with your boy a little bit. And you know, Brainerd is coming up. That's my next attempt at an ultra distance, so you know, hopefully I'll be able to keep you up to speed on how the training block is going and where I'm at in my miles and stuff like that, and eventually even showing you how I'm doing it. So with that said, until next time, deuces.